Namo Namaha Bhavatam Sarvesham Bhaktam Swagatam. Welcome back to this channel Sanskrit Sopanam. I hope you are doing great. I'm also good. And continuing in our series Learning Sanskrit through Gita, today we are decoding the 22nd shloka from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And this particular shloka is so simple yet so profound. And that is why this is often one of the most quoted shloka from Bhagavad Gita. Again, very easy to understand, grammatically also very straightforward, but with such a profound meaning and such a universal appeal to it. So what is it? How we can understand through the lens of grammar, Sanskrit grammar? Without wasting any more time, let's quickly dive in today's video. Okay, so this is the shloka. Let me go through the shloka once. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naroparani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि samyati navani dehi. Okay, so this is the shloka, and this here, of course, is the Sandhi Vichcheda version of the shloka. So right here you can see the Ukara Sandhi that is happening, Naroparani. So we already know how this Sandhi works out. It is Naraha and Aparani. So Naroparani. Okay, and apart from this, you see this word that extends to the next line. So this is basically Jirnani and Anyani. So here again we can see Jirnani. So E of this Jirnani is in Sandhi with Anyani, the A of Anyani. So it is a usual Yana Sandhi. Okay, so again all the very common Sandhis that we usually go through. See, in this shloka you can already see Jirnani, Navani, Sharirani, then you have Navani, Aparani. So here you can clearly see all these are the Napunsaklinga form, Phalam, Phale, Phalani. So you can already see that all of these are Napunsaklinga form. So with the usual logic, you can understand that there might be one Napunsaklinga Namapada, when one main Namapada, and then the rest of the others might be the adjective to it, adjective or complement to it. Okay, so all these things are basically just the initial hints that you get while before decoding the shloka. And by the way, again, all the detail, including the Sandhi details, everything is in the PDF file. Download the PDF file from the link in the description box. We'll directly start the decoding of the shloka now. Okay, so we are starting with Yatha Grihnati. Okay, so Yatha will of course be there because we have this conjugation Yatha and Tatha. So just as something, even so something else in that sense. Okay, so this entire first line is sort of describing that first situation, and this entire second line starting with Tatha is obviously describing the second situation. And then you can also see in between both these lines, first and second, there are so many words that are common. Jirnani, Jirnani. Then you have Navani, Navani. Then you have this Vihaya, Vihaya here also. Okay, and then you have a Kriya Pada Grihnati, and here you have a Kriya Pada Samyati. Both of them essentially convey the same thing. Okay, so that is what I mean when I say grammatically it is very easy to approach, because if you can decode the first line, then very similar is the second line. So Yatha Grihnati. Grihnati, this means some third person attains. Okay, and this Kriya Pada, this form comes from Graha Dhatu. Graha Dhatu again means to take or to attain in that sense. Okay, in the sense of acquisition, in the sense of acquiring something. And the form here, Grihnati, is a simple third person, some third person, singular and present tense, that is Lat Lakara in Sanskrit. So Graha Dhatu in these three property changes into Grihnati, simply meaning just some third person attains. Some third person attains or some third person takes in either sense. And again, we are complementing this with this Yatha. So Yatha Grihnati, just as some person attains. Okay, in that sense, we are opening the decoding of the shloka. Okay, and see, what we discussed in the previous shloka is now with every Sanskrit word, try to find the synonym of it. So this Grihnati can very well be replaced with another Kriya Pada Prapnoti, because Saha Prapnoti, he acquires. So we can replace this with this another Kriya Pada Prapnoti, which is coming from Ap Dhatu, another Dhatu. So try and see that for every word you can at least find one synonym for it. Okay. But anyways, Yatha Grihnati, just as some person attains. So obviously the question is Kaha Grihnati, that who attains? And the response is Yatha Naraha Grihnati. Naraha. Naraha in simple sense means some person. Okay. So we are obviously talking in a general sense that just as a person attains, just as a person acquires in that sense. Okay. This form here, Naraha, is again very obvious coming from the Pratipadika Nara. Since this is the karta of this kriya, so of course it is in the prathama vibhakti. Prathama vibhakti ekvachanam, nara changes into naraha. What we see here in the shloka, again this same word also can be very easily replaced with another word, suppose manavaha. So yatha manavaha grihnati, just as a person, just as a man attains in that sense. So naraha, manavaha, purushaha, a lot of words you can replace this with. Anyways, now we move on and we inquire about the object of the kriya. See how straightforward this is. That you got the kriya, then of course you inquire about the karta of the kriya. And once you got the karta, then you inquire about the karma of the kriya, object of the kriya. Okay, kani grihanati. And the response is aparani navani grihanati. Okay, and see, aparani navani. So let us understand these words first. So aparani, this is coming from the pratipadika apara. And apara, this simply means another. Okay, different set, another set in that sense. So the very common word that we very frequently use for this another is also anya. Okay, anya, this also we use. In fact, this particular pratipadika anya is used in this shloka. See, anyani. So anya, apara, itara, all these words signify another, different. Okay, so in that sense, and nava, this simply means new. Okay, so you have nava, then you also use pratipadika like nutana. Okay, nutana also signifies new. Then you also use pratipadika navina. So all these navina, nutana, nava, all these describe something that is new. Okay, so we have these two words, apara and nava. And now you see, for the first line, you have this vasamsi. So when we decode, due to the structure of the sentence, this vasamsi will come later in the next step. But for this very first line and for this kriya, attains. So the main namapada, the main karma, the main object is this vasamsi. And this vasamsi, because let us understand this word also, because this is the main namapada. And all these apara, nava, jirnani, all these are just adjectives of this main namapada. This is coming from the pratipadika vasas. It is a sakarant pratipadika, vasas. Okay, and this means clothes. Okay, this means clothes. This vasas, this pratipadika, it is a neuter gender pratipadika. It is a napumsaklinga, neuter gender pratipadika. So suppose I ask you any other sakarant neuter gender pratipadika. So yes, we have this manas. This manas pratipadika is also a sakarant ending with a sakara. Sakarant neuter gender pratipadika. So we know that forms of this word also, vasas also, will be exactly same as this manas. But anyways, the main pratipadika here is vasas, that means clothes, very similar to vastra, that is another Sanskrit word for clothes, vastra. Okay, and this particular form, vasamsi, so this is the second case, second word case, dutiya vibhakti. Why dutiya vibhakti? Because you know that this vasas, this vasamsi is a object, is the karma of this kriya. Okay, so this is in dutiya vibhakti and plural here. Okay, again exactly similar to the forms of manas. Manaha, manasi, manansi. And same thing you see here. Vasaha, vasasi, vasamsi. So dutiya vibhakti plural. Okay, so this vasamsi is the main object of this kriya. This is the main namapada. So when I have this sentence that yatha naraha, aparani, navani, you imagine that this vasamsi, we are talking about this vasamsi here. And so the meaning of the sentence will be that just as a person grihanati, attains or acquires aparani navani, another new set of clothes, another new clothes. Okay, that is the meaning I want to convey here. So this apara, this adjective is of course will follow the same dutiya vibhakti plural. Okay, because again both of these adjectives are describing this namapada. It is a neuter gender namapada. So they will take the neuter gender form. Apara changes into aparani, means another clothes. And nava, this changes into navani, that means new clothes. Okay, so I hope this is clear, pretty straightforward as you can see. And a little information is left. That is why I'm asking kim kritva. That okay, a person attains new clothes, but kim kritva, after doing what? And we get is vihaya. Vihaya, this means after abandoning. Or in the case of this clothes, after casting them off. Okay, that is the sense here. Vihaya. This is of course coming from the dhatu ha. And ha dhatu means to abandon. Okay, to abandon, to discharge. Again, we are talking about clothes. So more appropriate will be to cast off in that sense. So that is this ha dhatu. This dhatu here is with a upsarga, with a prefix vi. So vi ha. And now I want to convey that after doing this kriya, after abandoning, after casting off. So we know we can use either this twa pratyay or we can use the lyap pratyay. But since we have a upsarga, since we have a prefix with the dhatu, so we cannot use twa pratyay, rather we will use the lyap pratyay. And we also know that for this lyap pratyay, only this ya, only this remains. So vi plus ha changed by lyap pratyay becomes vihaya. Okay, giving the sense that after abandoning or after casting off. Okay, so I hope this is clear. See, for this sense, to abandon, to leave, to let go, for this sense also we very commonly use this dhatu, tyaj dhatu. So in place of this vihaya, I could have also used tyaktva. Okay, tyaj dhatu modified by tva, so it will become tyaktva. So I could have used this also, that yatha naraha tyaktva. So again, multiple options, and try to question these things. That vihaya, how could I replace this? So I can use tyaj dhatu. Then you also have srij dhatu. So this srij dhatu also we have seen, I think in the later part of chapter 1, that visrajya, that after letting go, after letting loose. So this also we could have replaced. Okay, so again, multiple options for the same meaning. But here we have this ha dhatu. From this we are getting vihai after casting off. But if we'll move on, so now again the question will be that kani vihai, that after casting off what? And now we get the final part of sentence, that jirnani vasamsi. Okay, so vasamsi, this we already saw, that vasamsi, this means clothes. Okay, so after casting off clothes, but not just any clothes. That is how they are describing it, that jirnani, this is coming from the pratipadika jirna. And this jirna, this simply means something that is old, something that is worn out. Okay, something that has withered with time, something that has decayed with time and with use. So in that sense, something that is old and worn out. Okay, and since this is also an adjective to the same vasamsi, so again it is also taking the same second vibhakti, dutiya vibhakti, plural. Okay, jirna, this changes into jirnani. Okay, so I hope all these words are clear. Again, pretty straightforward. Now the entire structure, this entire first line, this means yatha naraha jirnani vasamsi vihai aparani navani grihanati. That means just as a person, after casting off old worn out clothes, aparani navani grihanati, attains a set of another new clothes. Okay, so very universal thing, that once when something of ours with time and with use becomes old, becomes worn out, so we let it go, we discharge it, and we attain a new one, we acquire a new one, another set of it. So that is what is said in the first line. Okay, that is what Krishna is saying. And with this same chain of thought, he will continue in second line, that tatha samyati, tatha, even so. So just as this, tatha, even so, or likewise. Okay, in either way you can use it. Samyati. So this samyati means, again, some third person attains. Okay. So this form is coming from the dhatu ya dhatu. Ya dhatu again means to go, to move about, to go. In that sense, the form here is same. Third person singular present tense, that is lat lakara. This ya, this changes into yati. Okay. And samyati. So of course we have the prefix, we have the upsarga sam. So samyati, that is what you see in the shloka. So basically you go about to attain something, to attain to something in that sense. Okay. So tatha samyati, even so or likewise, some third person attains. And exactly similar to the structure of first line, you will see the same set of question, the same structure, that kaha samyati, who attains. And we get our karta, dehi samyati. Dehi, this is coming from the pratipadika dehin. Okay, this is the pratipadika dehin. We have seen this pratipadika before. This is a masculine gender pullingam pratipadika, and this is exactly similar to what we usually use atman. Atman is Atma, that is the self. Okay, but when we have to empower the embodied self, in that sense, when we have to empower this point, embodied, so we better use this Pratipadika Dehin. And again, this Dehin also we saw from where it came, Deha. This basically means the Sharira, the physical body. And this Deha was being modified using Ini Pratyaya, in the sense that one who possesses Sharira. So one who possesses the physical body, that is Dehin. Why? Because we want to convey that the embodied soul. Okay, we are talking from that perspective, that when a person is alive, so that Atma, that self within that person is the embodied soul. Okay, Dehin Pratipadika, it is a masculine gender Pratipadika. Since we know this is the Karta of this Kriya, so we know that this Dehin is in Prathama Vibhakti, in first word case and singular form. So like any Nakarant masculine gender Pratipadika, Sannyasin becomes Sannyasi, Yogin becomes Yogi. So Dehin, it becomes Dehi. Okay, so that is what we see here. And if we'll move on, so again the same question, that Dehi Kani Samyati, the embodied soul, it attains what? And again we get two adjectives, Anyani Navani. Actually the same adjectives, because there we got Aparani Navani, and here we get Anyani Navani. Anyani, this is coming from anya. This pratipadika, again, this means another. Okay, and navani is exactly same like we saw before. Nava, this also means new. And just as we saw in the first line, the main karma, the main object was vasas, that is the clothes, vasamsi. Similarly, for the second line, the main object is this sharirani. And this is, of course, coming from the pratipadika sharira. Sharira, this simply means physical body. Okay, the physical, the gross body is thula sharira. Okay, so this is the main object for this kriya, samyati. So, anyani navani, and you imagine the word here, sharirani, in that sense. Okay, so what we are saying, that likewise, the embodied soul attains another new body. In that sense, we are trying to convey. And same thing, sharira, this is an object. So this is the dutiya vibhakti, and we are talking about plural. So dutiya vibhakti plural, sharira changes into sharirani. Similarly, all the adjectives also. Anya becomes anyani, nava becomes navani. Okay. So I hope all these words, everything, again, very clear, very easy to understand. If we'll move on. So again, we have the same question, kim kritva, that the embodied soul attains new set of bodies, but after doing what? Kim kritva. And we have the exact same response, vihaya. Again, that means after abandoning, or we can just rephrase it as having abandoned. So I'm not going to explain this because this is the same what we saw before. So we'll just move on and we'll ask that kani vihaya, that okay, the embodied soul, after abandoning what it attains for the new bodies. So dehi jirnani sharirani vihaya anyani navani samyati. So again, there we had jirnani vasamsi, the worn out clothes, and here we are comparing that worn out clothes with the worn out bodies. Okay, because for that embodied soul, our physical body is like a cloth. So the embodied soul, just like we do for clothes, the embodied soul, it abandons the old worn out bodies and it attains another body in another lifetime. That is what they are trying to convey here. So these were all the words. Now let us quickly see the anvay along with the translation. So yatha naraha, just as a person, jirnani vasamsi vihai, after abandoning vihai, jirnani vasamsi, old worn out clothes, grihnati, picks up or attains, aparani navani vasamsi, picks up another new ones, another set of clothes. So just as a person do for the old worn out clothes, tatha dehi, even so, likewise, dehi is the embodied soul, jirnani sharirani vihai, having abandoned the current worn out bodies, anyani navani samyati, it attains yet another new body. Okay, so that was it. And this seemingly simple shloka actually, and the meaning also is very clear, right? Every one of you will understand the meaning this shloka is trying to convey. But this seemingly simple shloka carries a lot of weightage. This, of course, is based on the doctrine of reincarnation, a very fundamental doctrine for not just Advaita philosophy or Vedanta philosophy, but for understanding the entirety of Sanatan Dharma, this doctrine of reincarnation of multiple lives. So, how it is answered in the Shastras is when we perform some work, when we do some action, so that action, of course, creates some effect. And when we experience that effect, so that experience, it can be either a good experience, a joyous experience, or it can be a poor experience, bad experience. But whatever is it, we experience that. When we experience it, it creates an impression. It creates a vasana. From that impression, from that vasanas, we get desires. It can be again a desire to do it, a desire to not do it, but whatever it is, it gets a desire. That desires in due time, it becomes a seed of thought in our mind. When we keep on thinking about it, and when the situation is conducive for it, so that thought eventually translates into another action. That action again creates another experience. From that experience again, we get another impression, another vasana, and that cycle keeps on going. That cycle keeps on going. So that is how it works. Now, in this shloka, the example given is of our clothes. That when we discharge off, when we let go our old worn out clothes, why we do it? We discharge of old clothes. Why? Because either they have served their purpose, either the purpose is fulfilled, or they are no longer able to serve the purpose, or they are no longer useful. Okay, that is why we discharge of anything. Same thing goes for the embodied soul. And here with this embodied soul, basically the meaning is the subtler aspects of our body. That is the ego center, the ahamkara, that I. So those subtler aspects are hinted with this embodied soul. So all the impressions, all the vasanas, and all the previously done actions, all the repercussions that are yet that we are yet to face, all that is stored in those subtler elements of our body. So when this current physical body, it is not any more conducive to experience them, then this body becomes useless. That it has served its purpose, it becomes useless any longer. And so those subtler elements, they discharge of this body, they discard this body, and they attain another body in another lifetime, where where the body will be more conducive to experience whatever is yet to come. And keeping this very thing in mind, the great gurus of our ancient past, including Krishna, they advise us to keep performing good actions, to keep performing virtuous actions, because actions are the only thing that we are entitled to. And if we perform good actions, if we keep our single focus on performing good and virtuous actions, then everything rest is taken care of, because that is how this entire system works. That there will be most definitely a lot of things, a lot of repercussions that we have to face, we have to experience in this life for the actions that we have done in the past life. So that may be true, but this is also true that what we do in this life is going to shape our next life. And so it becomes very important to understand that whatever trajectory we choose to be on in this life, by our actions, by our thoughts, by our desires, whatever trajectory we choose for ourselves, if it is a upward going trajectory, constructive trajectory, or we are falling downwards, it is a destructive trajectory, whatever path we choose on to be in this life, all the actions, all the thoughts, they are creating impression that are retained by our subtle elements. And when this body dies away, that same trajectory is going to continue in the next life also, because the subtle elements, they make sure that we get a birth in a body, in a situation, in a scenario that is more conducive to whatever trajectory we were on in the previous life. But again, there still can be so much more discussion on this very shloka also, but I will not go too much deep into that. Please, you refer to some commentary on these Bhagavad Gita shlokas. Again, very profound meanings. And I hope all the grammar and vocabulary part was clear, pretty straightforward as you saw. If you have any doubt, download that PDF from the link in the description box. It has all the details. I'll meet you in another video, in another shloka. Until then, stay awesome, stay happy, keep learning Sanskrit. Vayam punah milamaha. Dhanyavad.